The room smelled like metal and recycled air. Eli Mason adjusted the too-tight collar of his borrowed suit and looked around the massive hall on the orbiting space station. Alien dignitaries floated, glided, slithered, and shimmered around him. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked uncomfortable, and he felt very out of place. Why did they send me? He muttered under his breath. Eli was a biologist, not a diplomat. He'd spent years studying alien plants and bacteria, not galactic politics. But when Earth's top ambassadors suddenly fell sick after eating the wrong type of alien seafood, someone had to fill the gap. Eli had been nearby. And, according to one desperate official, you at least know how to pronounce their names. So now here he was, dressed in an ill-fitting suit, standing in a hall filled with aliens from across the galaxy. He clutched a glass of sparkling blue liquid and tried not to embarrass Earth. Then he saw her. She stood near the center of the room, surrounded by glowing guards and shimmering drones. She wasn't like the others, not strange or insect-like, not slimy or robotic. She looked almost human. Tall, graceful, with bright silver eyes, and hair that shimmered like water. Her gown flowed around her like smoke, and she held herself like someone used to ruling worlds. Princess Thalara of the Zellery Empire, the one and only heir to the most powerful royal family in the galaxy. She caught him staring. Eli quickly turned away and pretended to be interested in a nearby snack table filled with glowing cubes and sizzling worms. He picked up a cube and sniffed it. Probably poisonous. "You're not a diplomat," a calm, melodic voice said behind him. Eli jumped and spun around. It was her. Princess Thalara stood there, watching him with a curious smile. "Is it that obvious?" he asked. She tilted her head. "You're the only one here who looks like he's about to run away." Eli smiled awkwardly. "Yeah, well, I wasn't exactly invited, more like pushed in. Your leaders fell ill," she said. "I heard. Very careless." Eli shrugged. To be fair, the jellyfish sushi looked delicious. To his surprise, Thalara laughed. A soft, musical laugh that didn't feel fake. "I'm Thalara," she said, offering a hand. "Eli Mason, Earth, biologist." "Professional mistake." They shook hands. Her fingers were warm and glowing faintly. They sat together at a small table, away from the more serious talks. She asked him about Earth, its chaos, its weather, its people. He asked her about the Empire, the moon she'd visited, the battles she'd trained for, the pressure of being royal. Their conversation lasted hours. Eli spoke without fear, not caring about her title or her power. And Thalara listened, not with judgment but with interest. She found his sarcasm funny, his honesty rare. At one point, Zellery Noble approached and spoke to Celerine in sharp, formal tones. She replied coldly, and the noble left, clearly upset. "What was that about?" Eli asked. "He wanted to remind me of my duty. My marriage is being arranged," she said with a bitter smile. "To a Kurox general, to strengthen alliances." Eli frowned. "And you're okay with that?" "No," she said quietly. "But it doesn't matter what I want." There was a long silence. Then Eli said, "Well, if you want to get out of it, we could fake a scandal." She looked at him, A wild Earthman romance, headlines, shame, royal drama. Might be fun. To his shock, her eyes lit up. That might actually work. "Wait, what?" She leaned closer. "In Zellery law, if I marry someone outside the Empire without permission, it nullifies the arranged match. It's considered dishonorable. They'd back off. I'd be free." "You're joking." "I'm not," she said. "Marriages are sacred to my people. Even sudden ones." Eli laughed nervously. "Okay, but you're not seriously suggesting?" "I am." He blinked. "You want to marry me? Tonight?" "Yes, princess. I don't even own a spaceship." "You own your choices," she said. He stared at her. This was insane. Galactic Princess wanted to marry him to avoid an arranged political union. They'd just met. He was nobody. A biologist with student loans and a cat back on Earth. And yet, something about her made him want to say. Yes. Maybe it was the way she looked at him like he was more than he thought he was. Maybe it was the fact that he could help someone powerful feel free. Or maybe he just really hated politics. Eli stood up. Okay, let's crash the empire. 3 hours later, they stood in a small glowing chamber filled with Zellery legal officials, energy signatures, and hovering witnesses. The marriage ceremony was fast, formal, and slightly terrifying. At the end, a beam of blue light marked their wrists with glowing symbols, proof of union. They were married. Just like that, princess. Thalara was now Princess Thalara Mason, and Eli. He was the husband of an alien royal. As they left the chamber, hand in hand, Thalara whispered, "I hope your planet is ready for this." Eli sighed. "You haven't met my mom yet?" Back on Earth, a very different kind of panic was beginning. The Earth ambassador team had recovered and received the news. Their stand-in biologist had married the princess of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Emergency meetings were called. Politicians screamed. Scientists fainted. The internet exploded. Memes, fan art, conspiracy theories. Was this planned? Is this war or peace? Who was Eli Mason, and how did he do this? Back on the orbiting station, Eli sat on the edge of a bed, staring at the glowing ring on his finger. "This is real," he whispered. Thalara stepped into the room in a soft robe, holding 2 cups of strange steaming liquid. "It is," she said, handing him a cup. "You're a symbol now, a scandal, a solution." "I'm also in so much trouble," Eli muttered. She sat beside him. "You helped me. I didn't have to. You didn't have to trust me either." They clinked cups and drank. The galactic storm had only just begun, but in that quiet moment, a room between stars, a human and an alien found something rare. Not just an escape, but a beginning. Back on Earth, the Mason house was quiet. It was early morning in Ohio. Birds chirped outside. A lawnmower buzzed down the street, and inside a small kitchen filled with family photos and the smell of burnt toast, Mrs. Judith Mason stirred her coffee. She didn't know her son had just married an alien princess. She thought Eli was still on some boring science mission. She had no idea that millions of people across the galaxy were talking about her son until her doorbell rang. She opened the door and saw something she would never forget. 2 guards in glowing armor stood at her front porch. Behind them, a sleek silver ship hovered just above her front lawn, steam rising from the grass. In front of them all stood a tall, silver-haired woman in a glowing gown. "Hello?" the woman said, bowing slightly. "I'm Princess Thalara of the Zellery Empire. You must be Eli's mother." Judith blinked. "Excuse me?" Thalara smiled gently. "Your son is my husband, so that makes you my mother-in-law." Judith stared at her. "Who's this?" she asked out loud. The alien princess replied calmly, "Your new daughter-in-law." Judith dropped her coffee. Meanwhile, Eli stood inside the house and rubbing his temples. "This is a disaster," he muttered. He had arrived with Thalara just 10 minutes ago. The media didn't know yet. Earth's government begged them to stay quiet, at least for a day before the press exploded. He'd agreed. But he forgot to tell his mom. That was a mistake. Judith slowly sat down on the couch, her eyes wide. Her small dog barked at the Zellery guards, who stood silently like statues near the kitchen. "Eli," she said. "What? What did you do?" "I got married," he said weakly. "To her? To save her from a political marriage?" he said quickly. "It's complicated." Judith looked at Thalara. "And you're really a princess?" "From space? Yes. Not like Hollywood space. Real space." "Very real," Thalara said politely. Judith stood up, walked to the sink, and poured herself another cup of coffee. "Okay. Sure, why not? My son marries a space queen. Happens every day." Eli sighed. "She's not a queen yet." Thalara smiled. "And I like your home. It smells real." Judith blinked. "It smells like burnt toast." "I meant that in a good way," Thalara added quickly. Eli couldn't tell if this was the worst day of his life or the weirdest. The next few hours were full of chaos. Thalara tried human clothes. Judith gave her an old floral dress and a denim jacket.
Wow.
It looked ridiculous. The princess wore it proudly. They went to the grocery store. Thalara nearly vaporized a self-checkout machine by accident. The guards had to stand outside. Children pointed at her silver hair. One old man asked if she was part of a rock band. She smiled and said, "No, I married a human." That answer confused him even more. At dinner, Judith made spaghetti. Thalara studied it like it was an alien weapon. But she tried it and loved it. "This tastes like family," she said. Judith nearly cried. Even Eli was impressed. Thalara, despite being royal and powerful, seemed to enjoy Earth life. She asked questions, laughed at old TV shows, and tried to pet the dog who ran away in fear. But the peace didn't last. That night, ship parked outside picked up movement. In orbit above Earth, a small stealth shuttle moved silently through the clouds. Inside were 3 Zalari assassins, dressed in black armor with long silver blades and dark glowing eyes. Their mission: kill Eli Mason. The royal marriage had embarrassed powerful nobles. They wanted revenge. If the human was removed, the marriage would break. Thalara would be forced back into the Empire's control. Simple, quiet, deadly, back it. The Mason house. Eli stood outside, enjoying the cool night air. He heard something. A strange humming. A flash of silver light. Then shhhhh. A blade flew past his head and hit the tree behind him. He spun around. Masked figures dropped from the sky. Eli. Thalara shouted from the doorway. Gosh. She rushed outside, her dress glowing with energy. The guards had been knocked out by sonic weapons. Only Eli and Thalara stood now. "You brought assassins to my mom's house?" he shouted. "I didn't invite them." Thalara snapped back. The first attacker lunged. Eli ducked. He grabbed a rake and swung it hard. The assassin blocked it, but the blow knocked him backward. Thalara raised her hand. A burst of light shot from her palm, knocking another attacker into the bushes. Eli ran toward the barbecue grill. He pulled out the long fork and lit the gas. Flames roared up. "Back off," he yelled, waving the flaming fork. The last attacker charged at Thalara, but she stepped aside smoothly, grabbed Eli's hand. And together they spun, knocking him into the side of the house. Crack, the wall dented. The assassin didn't get up. Eli panted. His suit was burned. His hair was full of leaves. "You okay?" he asked. Thalara nodded. "You fight?" Creatively. "It's a gift," he said. They looked around. The guards woke up. "What happened?" "Alien ninjas," Eli said. His mom stared at the 3 unconscious bodies. "Right, of course." By morning the news had spread. Someone leaked the story. Earthman marries alien royalty. Assassins attack in Ohio. Backyard, is this the start of interstellar war? Eli's face was on every screen. So was Thalara's. Reporters camped outside the neighborhood. Drones buzzed in the sky, and surprisingly, most people loved it. Eli became a symbol. A regular human who married a princess, fought assassins, and survived. People posted memes of him with a flaming fork. Hashtags like #ForkTheEmpire trended across. Both Earth and Zalari networks.tha. Lara watched the news and laughed. "You're famous now. Didn't even get to finish my spaghetti," he muttered. The Zalari Empire had no choice but to acknowledge the marriage. Too many eyes were watching. It's too much support from other species. If they attacked now, they would look weak. Instead, they offered a temporary blessing. Eli and Thalara had bought time. A few weeks of peace. Maybe more. Judith looked at her son one night and said, "You always dated weird girls, but this one's different." Eli smiled. "She saved my life." Judith smirked. "You saved hers too, don't forget." Outside, the stars shone above the quiet street, and inside. An alien princess and a human scientist sat together on a couch, watching cartoons and sharing popcorn. Galactic politics could wait. Tonight, they were just newlyweds, a little confused, a little tired, and very much alive. The internet was on fire, not just Earth's internet. the Zelari net, the Chax data web, even the underground networks of the Varn Dominion. All of them were buzzing with one thing: Eli Mason and Princess Thalara, a human and an alien. Married. Alive. Smiling. Photos of the battle in the backyard spread like wildfire. One picture showed Eli holding a flaming barbecue fork while protecting Thalara. Another showed the unconscious assassins lying in the bushes. People couldn't believe it, and they loved it. Across the galaxy, something strange began to happen. On a mining colony ruled by the Zelari, a group of workers gathered around a holoscreen. They watched the footage of Eli yelling, "Back off," waving his fork like a sword. The room burst into laughter and cheers. "If a human can stand up to them," one miner said, "why can't we?" On a jungle world where rebels hid. From the Empire, a young alien fighter whispered to her commander, "They call him the Fork King now." The commander didn't laugh. He stared at the screen and said, "Hope is a dangerous weapon." Back on Earth, Eli had no idea what was happening. He stood in his mom's backyard, holding a broken rake. The grass still smelled like burned alien armor. The silver ship was gone for now, parked in a nearby military base under heavy guard. "You think they'll come back?" Eli asked. Thalara stood beside him, wearing jeans and a borrowed hoodie. She had grown comfortable with Earth clothes, especially ones with pockets. "They might," she said, "but now there'll be more. Careful." Eli looked at her. "Because of the marriage?" She said, "Because of you." Later that day, they were invited to a private meeting in Washington, D.C. A sleek military jet picked them up. Eli sat next to Thalara, both silent as they flew over fields and cities. The guards on board were nervous. Everyone was when they landed. The president herself greeted them in a quiet room with no cameras. She was calm, older, with sharp eyes. "You married a princess," she said to Eli. "Yes, ma'am." "You fought off assassins with a fork." "Yes, ma'am." She paused. "And now every rebel group in the galaxy wants to meet you." Eli blinked. "Wait, what?" Thalara nodded. "They see us as a sign. Proof that the Empire's rule can be challenged, that alliances can be made." Eli sat down. "I was just trying to avoid a political wedding." The president smiled. "Well, now you're political." "Like it or not." Thalara stepped forward. "We want to help." The president raised an eyebrow. "How Earth is neutral, not yet part of the Empire. If we host a peace summit here, rebel leaders might come." Eli's stomach dropped. "You want to bring galactic rebels, ... here, to Earth?" Thalara looked at him. "You gave me a chance to choose my own future. Let's give them the same." The next few weeks were the strangest in Earth history. Alien ships quietly landed. In deserts, forests, and oceans. Cloaked transports moved between cities. Diplomats worked day and night. And all of it centered around one couple, Eli and Thalara. They became symbols, not just of rebellion, but of change. The media gave them new titles: the human who married the stars, the princess and the fork. The first couple. Of the galaxy, Eli hated the attention, but he tried to stay calm. After all, he still lived in his mom's house. She made sure he took his vitamins and did the dishes, even when alien leaders visited. The first meeting was held in a hidden base in the Colorado mountains, inside. Leaders from 5 alien species sat at a long round table. Some wore armor, others wore ceremonial robes or cloaks made of light. Each one carried the weight of war, fear, and loss. Eli sat at the center with Thalara. He felt like an imposter, they argued. For hours, about war, about treaties, about Earth's role. Finally one. Commander slammed his fist on the table and said, "Why should we trust you, human? You're nobody." Eli stood. "You're right," he said. "I'm not special. I'm not a soldier. I don't have a royal family. I don't have power." Looked around the room. "But I married someone who does. And I told her the truth." That's how this started. The room went quiet. Eli stepped closer. "If I, a simple guy from Ohio, can do something like this? What could you do if you stood together? Silence grew longer. Then the commander sat back. We'll listen. So the talks began. Days turned 2 weeks. Old enemies shared meals. Soldiers shook hands. Plans were made. Fleets were hidden. Signals sent. The rebellion was no longer scattered. It was becoming organized, all because of one unexpected marriage. But peace didn't come easy. In a Zellery council chamber, far from Earth, powerful nobles gathered in shadow. The princess has betrayed us, one said. She must be removed, said another. Earth must be silenced, they sent a message, a final warning. It arrived on Earth encoded in a strange silver cube. When activated, a Zellery noble with cold eyes stared at the camera. You have 3 days to dissolve the marriage, he said, or Earth will burn. Eli looked at Thalara. We knew this would happen, she said, but now it's not just about us, he replied. It's about everyone. The next day, Earth prepared for defense. The president declared a planetary emergency. Satellites activated hidden shields. Military forces moved into position. But something else happened too. Ships began arriving in Earth's orbit, not to attack, but to help. One by one, rebel fleets uncloaked. They formed a circle around Earth. Dozens of alien species, once divided, now stood united. The Fort King and his princess had given them a reason to fight together. Eli stood on a hill outside the city. Watching the skies, beside him stood Thalara. In armor made of silver and earth steel, she handed him a new weapon, a barbecue fork, now upgraded with alien tech. You've got to be kidding, he said, laughing. Symbolism matters. She replied. Eli looked up. They're coming. Thalara nodded. But we're not alone. The stars above Earth began to shift. Dozens of dark shapes appeared from deep space, like shadows rising from an ocean. Zellery warships, sharp, cold, and covered in glowing blue lines, filled the sky. Each one was larger than any human city. Together, they looked like a moving wall. They weren't coming to talk, were coming to conquer. At the same time, rebel ships from dozens of species held position in Earth's orbit. Some were small, fast fighters. Others were old, dented, cruisers patched with scrap and hope. None were as big or powerful as the Zellery fleet. It looked like a hopeless fight, but Earth didn't stand alone anymore. In a command bunker beneath Washington, Eli Mason stood in front of a large screen, dressed in a plain black jacket. Beside him stood Princess Thalara in battle robes that shimmered with light, and behind them were military generals, alien captains, scientists, translators, and Judith Mason, holding a mug of strong coffee. Okay, Eli said. What's the plan that doesn't end with Earth becoming a smoking crater? One human general cleared his throat. We fight hard, but we can't match their power ship Chew ship. They have better weapons, shields, numbers. We're outclassed. We're Varn tactician, covered in red scales, spoke next. Unless we use their fear against them. Everyone turned to him. The Empire's arrogant, proud, but they're also afraid of losing control. If we make them believe this rebellion is bigger than it is, they might not attack. Eli blinked. You want us to bluff? The Varn grinned. Exactly. And so the great bluff began. Across Earth and in rebel-controlled systems, false signals were sent. Fake fleet movements, pretend weapons platforms, artificial communications that made it sound like hundreds more planets were joining the E. Resistance, they broadcast unity, power, confidence. Even the Earth media helped, showing images of rebel ships, welcoming new allies that didn't exist. The Zellery Empire watched. They hesitated, but not for long. 3 days passed. The deadline ended, and then the first Zellery ship fired. A bright beam of blue light shot toward Earth's defense shield and shattered part of it like glass. Sirens screamed across the world. Defenses activated. Lasers fired. Missiles launched. Rebel ships rushed forward. Eli and Thalara stood in the command room, watching the war begin. He clenched his fists. They called the bluff. Thalara looked calm. Then we show them what humans do when pushed. The skies above Earth became a battlefield. Zel-Ari fighters zipped through clouds, chasing rebel ships. Earth's new defense satellites barely finished, fired ion blasts that tore holes in enemy wings. Over major cities, cloaked drones buzzed through the air like angry bees. But the Zalari were powerful. They pushed forward. Ships exploded. Earth trembled. In space, Admiral Kor of the Zalari watched calmly from his throne-shaped command seat. "This is what they send against us," he muttered. "What marriage does not make a rebellion?" But then something strange happened. A fleet of unknown ships appeared. Not rebel, not Earth. Newcomers, the Tyrans, the Vosari. Even a faction of breakaway Zalari cruisers, defectors, wearing rebel colors now. Traitors, the Admiral spat. The newcomers didn't answer with words. They answered with fire. And suddenly, the battlefield changed. Back on Earth, Eli stood. In shock, Moore joined us. Thalara nodded. They watched. They waited. And when Earth didn't fall, they chose a side. Lee felt something heavy in his chest. Not fear, something else. "Hope we have a chance," he said. "But not for long," Thalara warned. "The flagship is moving." Lai turned toward the screen. The largest Zalari ship, the Vindicator, began descending. It wasn't coming to fight ships anymore. It was coming to destroy Earth itself. Eli made a decision. "I'm going up there." Everyone stared. "What?" Thalara said. "You'll be killed. I have to talk to him," to the Admiral. "If I can stall him, even a few minutes, it might be enough." Judith stepped forward. "You're not going alone." Eli smiled. "Sorry." "Mom, you're brave, but I don't need backup with a frying pan." She held up her pan. "It's titanium." But still Eli turned to Thalara. "Will you come with me?" Her eyes softened. "Always." They boarded a small stealth shuttle inside. It was silent. The pilot was a Vosari, with 3 arms and a love for dramatic music. "We'll get you there," he said. "But coming back?" "No promises." Ellie nodded. "I've had worse dates." Thalara smirked. "This is our honeymoon, remember?" Eli laughed nervously. "Right." The shuttle flew through the chaos of battle. Explosions shook the stars. Ships burned. Fighters screamed past them, locked in deadly chases. But they made it. They reached the Vindicator. A docking hatch opened like a metal mouth. The two walked inside. Admiral Kor sat on his throne, surrounded by guards in glowing armor. "You," he growled when he saw Eli, the human pet. "I'm nobody special," Eli said, "but here I am." Thalara stepped beside him. "I'm not your tool anymore." The Admiral stood. "You dare stand against your own empire?" "I'm married into something bigger," she said. "And you're afraid of it," Kor laughed. "I fear nothing." Eli stepped forward. "Then why try to kill me in my backyard? Why send assassins? Destroy Earth?" But the Admiral's smile faded. "Because you've given others an idea," he said. "The idea that the Empire can be ... questioned." "Exactly," Eli replied. And at that moment, hidden device in Eli's jacket activated, a signal sent straight to the rebel fleets. The code: begin Operation Forkstorm outside. Rebel ships moved, secret weapons hidden deep under Earth's. Oceans rose to the surface. Tech given by defectors. Ancient alien relics found in the asteroid belt. Things Earth barely understood, but now used. They fired. Energy waves slammed into Zalari ships. Dozens exploded. The tide turned. Inside the Vindicator, the ship shook violently. "What did you do?" Kor screamed. Eli smiled. "I stalled long enough." The Admiral drew his blade, long curved. Glowing, he charged. Eli braced for death, but Thalara moved faster. She met the Admiral head-on. Sword against sword, the fight was quick, fierce, and when it ended, Kor fell defeated by the princess he once tried to control. She turned to Eli, breathing hard. "Let's go home." The Vindicator's systems failed. The shuttle escaped just in time, as they flew away. The flagship exploded behind them, a final light in the dark. The battle was over, and Earth had not fallen. The galaxy watched in silence, and then it celebrated. The rebellion had not only survived, it had won, and at the center of it all were a human scientist and an alien. Princess standing together, side by side. Back on Earth, crowds filled the streets. Aliens and humans together. Flags waved. Wore Team Thali shirts. Elderly aliens hugged old farmers. The world had changed forever. Eli stood on a small stage. Holding Thalara's hand, he looked out at the crowd. "I didn't plan any of this," he said. "I just fell in love." Laughter, cheers. Double quotes. But that's how revolutions start sometimes. Not with war, with love, with a choice, and with a really sharp barbecue fork. The people roared. Later that night, in the quiet of the backyard, Eli and Thalara sat by a fire pit. Judith brought out cocoa and cookies. Thalara tried marshmallows for the first time. "Strange food," she said, but ... comforting. Eli smiled, like Earth itself. She leaned on his shoulder above them. Stars filled the sky, and among them now flew the banner of a new alliance, one built on honesty, trust, and a very unlikely marriage. 6 months had passed since the battle for Earth. The galaxy was no longer the same. The Zellery Empire, once feared across star systems, had broken apart like a cracked glass. Many of their ships surrendered. Others joined the rebellion. Some fled into deep space, hiding like shadows. The rebellion, now united, was no longer just an idea. It had become a government, a voice, a power. And it had a name: the Free Alliance. At the heart of this new alliance was a blue planet that once seemed small and unimportant, Earth. And at the center of Earth's new role stood two people: a human scientist with messy hair and a calm heart, and an alien princess with fire in her soul, Eli Mason and Princess Thalara. The First Galactic Council was being formed. Delegates from more than 40 species gathered in Earth's new space embassy, a shining tower in orbit with large windows, green gardens, and open meeting halls. Ships floated nearby like friendly giants. The main chamber was circular. Flags from across the stars hung along the walls. In the center was a ring of seats. At the very front, a single podium, shaped like a tree growing from stone. Today was important today. They would vote on the formation of the new laws that would guide the galaxy. Eli stared at the polished surface of his seat and sighed. "Why does it feel like I'm back in school waiting for a math test?" Thalara smirked beside him. "'Cause you're about to change history again." He gave her a look. "I changed history once. Maybe twice. Can't someone else do it now?" Thalara shook her head. "You gave everyone the courage to speak up. They trust you. Whether you like it or not, you've become a symbol." Eli groaned. "I miss being boring." But deep down, he knew she was right. The session began. One by one, representatives gave speeches. Some talked about freedom, others about fairness. Few demanded safety or trade routes. Everyone wanted something, but the big question came down to this: who will lead? Wanted a council with no central voice. Others feared that without leadership, chaos would return. A few even suggested returning to Empire-style control, just with kinder faces. The room heated up. Voices grew louder. Man slammed tables. Then a calm voice cut through it all. Eli stood. He didn't shout, didn't wave his arms. He just spoke with truth. "I'm not a soldier. I'm not a king. I'm not even a politician," he said. "I'm just someone who listened. To Thalara, to others, to the truth." The room grew still. "I don't think we need rulers anymore. We need listeners. We need leaders who serve, not command." He pointed to the tree-shaped podium. "That's why it's built like that. Roots in stone, growing up but grounded. It should be us." Silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. And soon the entire chamber echoed with applause. Later, the vote passed. The Free Alliance Council was born. It would be led by an elected group of 7, chosen every 5 years. From different species and cultures, no more emperors, no more thrones, just voices. Working together, and Earth, once ignored by the stars, was given one of those 7 seats. A seat earned through courage, through truth, through a single, unexpected marriage. Life began to settle. Peace returned to most parts of the galaxy. Trade opened between worlds that had once feared each other. Scientists shared technology. Children on Earth learned alien languages in school. Farmers on distant moons planted Earth crops. Still, not everything was easy. Small groups of ex-Empire loyalists caused trouble. Some planets remained neutral, and whispers of a dark fleet building in deep space began to spread. But the Free Alliance was ready, and more importantly, it was united. Back at home, in Ohio, things were a little weird. Eli's mom, Judith, now hosted dinners for alien ambassadors. The backyard had a small landing pad. The neighbors still stared, but they had mostly accepted that Eli's wife glowed faintly under moonlight. Thalara had become a fan of gardening. Earth plants don't try to bite, she once said, digging up a stubborn weed. I like that. Eli worked part-time as a science advisor, part-time as a peace negotiator, and full-time as someone trying to keep his life calm. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he sat beside Thalara on the porch. She sipped iced tea, which she had finally grown to enjoy. "We should talk about the future," she said. Eli raised an eyebrow. "What part of it?" Thalara smiled softly. "Family," Eli blinked. "Oh, that part." She laughed. He looked terrified. "Not terrified," he said. "Just mildly shaken." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Eli said, "Would they be human, or—" "Both," she replied. "Maybe something new, something better." He nodded slowly. "I think I'd like that." And for the first time in a long while, the idea of the unknown didn't scare him. 1 year later, the Alliance celebrated its first anniversary. Across the stars, lights were lit. Cities threw festivals. Ships danced in formation above planets and in Earth's orbit. The new Galactic Library was opened, a project that held records, stories, songs, and history from every known world. Eli gave the opening speech. He stood on a floating platform. "Before a massive crowd, I used to think the galaxy was full of danger," he said. "And it is. But it's also full of voices, music, ideas, life." He held up a small fork, the same one he used that first night. "This isn't a weapon," he said. "It's a tool. And that's what we are now. Not fighters, builders, helpers, listeners." The crowd cheered. Even Judith cried. As the months passed, something new began to grow. Not just peace, not just alliances, but respect. Humans were no longer seen as weak or primitive. They were seen as clever, brave, kind. Other species began sending their students to Earth universities. Alien scientists and engineers moved into cities. Earth's art and music became popular across stars, and every time someone asked how it all began, they were told the same story. Once a princess came to Earth looking for safety, and instead, she found something better, a partner. Eli never forgot the moment his mother first asked that famous question, "Who's this?" Thalara, in her calm voice, had said, "Your new son-in-law." He never expected those words would shake the galaxy, but they had, and now. As he stood watching the stars with his wife's hand in his, he realized something simple but powerful. Sometimes, the greatest revolutions don't start with war. They start with love and a little courage to say, "No, I choose a different path." The stars waited new worlds to visit, new friends to meet, new problems to solve. But Earth, small, strange. Blue Earth had earned its place, not through force, but through heart.